you have one of what I consider to be one of the coolest legal practices in the country. I mean, you're essentially a solo practitioner, but it's almost like you have a 300 or 400 lawyer law firm, because you take on literally some of the largest companies in the world and some of the most complex, expensive, convoluted litigation that is out there, including, I think it's generally accepted that you are, if not the number one expert in the country, one of the top 2 or 3 experts in the country in autonomous vehicles, like self-driving vehicles and stuff like that. So how do you do that?
I didn't know that I couldn't.
Yeah.
And that's probably, the answer is I have chosen and have very, very good friends that I work with within the law.
Yeah.
There's very, very few cases that I'll do 100% alone. Like I said, we do a lot of work together. I work with Richard Denny a whole bunch.
Yeah.
I just work with different folks that have the same passion that I've got, and that aren't afraid to work. There's a lot of people in our business that are scared to work, and the folks that I've been able to surround myself with are not scared of working.
So let's talk a little bit more about that, because I think this is really important for people to hear, particularly people that are thinking about either starting a small business or even a small law firm. Tell us, either what you think the most important things to know about working remotely and collaborating with other people, or like what, if you want to tell us like any practical tips or apps or technology you use, or just kind of general mindset type of thing.
I think that's probably really what it's mindset, and it's the same exact attitude that we just were talking about in working up that first case. I just didn't know that I couldn't do it. My system, if you will, has constantly evolved. It's not the same system I had a year ago, certainly not 5 years ago, not 10 years ago. That desire or that mindset of always trying to figure out how to do it, that not giving up, knowing that there's a solution and keeping on looking for it. And so that's really how I think I've been able to work remotely way before other people were. And those were that resourcefulness. Again, I learned it as a kid.
How do you as a solo practitioner get that face-to-face time?
So you were talking about studies a little bit earlier. There is unspoken communication, whether that is pheromones or hormones that our body's emitting and we're picking up, whether it is subtleties in our facial expression or our hand gestures that we can't really see through the computer because you can only see from here up. And I'll give you an example, right? You're seeing me from the chest up.
Yeah.
Well, you don't know what my feet are doing. If you saw somebody tapping their foot like that, they'd say, "Oh, well, that person is nervous."
Yeah.
Right. So you definitely need the in-person communication, and I think that's one of the things that people are kind of finding out about what's going on right now.
It's amazing the amount of information that's conveyed non-verbally between humans, right? Body language, facial expressions, even smells, believe it or not.
Right, all of that.
And you lose, you just, even us talking on Zoom, you lose a little bit of that face-to-face contact, and you lose a little bit of information. Now, the flip side of that is, I read something many years ago about a guy who ran a totally remote business. And one of the objections that he heard was, well, how do you know people are actually doing what they're supposed to be doing? And he said, well, if you're a totally remote business, then the only thing you see is the work product, right? So it's not about whether this person is good around the water cooler or whether this is a fun person to be around in the office. It's 100% about the quality of the work